Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. And welcome to Talking with Teachers. I'm your host, Dr. Abdullah bin Hamid Ali. And today our guest is Ustadh Feraidoon Mojadedi. Feraidoon Mojadedi is a community leader, lecturer, and entrepreneur in the Bay Area, California. He's born in Afghanistan and then migrated here to the United States during the Russian invasion of Afghanistan in 1985. He is a very well-spoken person, very well-oriented in the knowledge of Rumi, among other things. He also is a playwright, has his own play that he's written called Layla and Majnun. There's a lot, of course, I would like to speak to him about. But inshallah, it's really a pleasure to have him with us here today. So we'd like to welcome Ustadh Feraidoon Mojadedi. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sidi. It's such a pleasure and honor being with you here on this
MashaAllah.
beautiful podcast.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Yeah, I really do. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to interview you and to learn from your wisdom. This particular podcast would rather say, that we try to focus on our guests, their backgrounds, and also personalities which have influenced them. And so the first question that I always ask my guests is, who are you? In other words, who is Feraidoon Mojadedi? We know some things about you in terms of your lectures and things like that, but this is more about your journey, your family background, how you came to be what you are right now. So whatever you are willing to share, we greatly appreciate it, inshallah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Sallallahu ta'ala ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. First of all, Jazakallah khair, Ustadh Abdullah, who is one of our teachers here at Zaytuna College, was also a teacher all around the globe. May Allah bless him and protect him and his family. I want to thank you for this opportunity. My name is Feraidoon Mojadedi. I was born in the city of Saints, what they call it in Herat, Afghanistan, a city where really some of the great scholars, ulama, are buried and laid to rest there, such as Shaykh al-Islam Khaja Abdullah al-Ansari, Imam Fakhruddin al-Razi, Mawlana Abdurrahman al-Jami, and many other, Ali ibn Muwaffaq, and the list goes on and on. A city of knowledge, a city of culture. Grew up in a household with truly a love of poetry, not only in the hearts and on the minds, but also in action. Daily, you would hear your brother or your sister or your mom or your dad, just hear people throwing proverbs and poetry at every occasion. So you kind of pick up these wisdom pieces. And growing up in that beautiful city, meeting beautiful people, I went to up to 8th grade. I skipped a few grades. I skipped 2nd and 6th, but just going through the school system and learning really a tradition that is dying and in most places dead. A tradition of teaching embedded in adab, and that's what they used to teach, everything with adab, whether it was science, whether it was mathematics, everything. There was an adab component to the teachings of the classes, from the uniform, the standard of clothing that you had to wear, to the way you carried your pen and pencil. So it was really interesting to experience that as a young age. I lost my father when I was very young. I actually was very young. I only have 4 memories of him, and kind of cherish those memories here, throughout my life, not to forget them. But he was an incredible man. I remember just spending a lot of time in his library as I grew. When I was especially when I was 6th grade, when the war in Afghanistan got to its height, and schools were. All of the schools all over Afghanistan was shut down. So 6th grade that year, there was no school. Nobody went to school. In Herat, everything was shut down. So we had nothing to do. So I used to go to my dad's library and try to pick up books, but most of them were over my head. And he had an incredible library that was really, my uncle designed it based on the based on the libraries in the West to have had a book, and you could find which book is in which shelf very easily, very nicely done. But then I stumbled over these poetry books that were like contemporary poets, and I started reading those and really liking it. And then just we had nothing to do. Sixth grade was really for me the transformation of my life was sixth grade, because there was nothing to do. There was no electricity. Obviously, there's no television. Radio comes for an hour a night, and then there's you couldn't go out. You couldn't play with your friends, so you just stuck at home for an entire year, right? And then there was a book rental place right under our home, so we used to go from the back of the wall into the rental place, and that's as far as we could go, right under our house. We couldn't go to the next neighborhood because of the war, and just rent books for 1 rupee, like $1 a day, and then trying to finish it because that was our allowance. My allowance was 1 rupee a day. So
okay.
and then so just reading these books, and so sixth grade, it was a lot of like novels. It wasn't like anything, it was like White Fang and translated in Farsi. So there's a lot of British, American, German. I just you name it. The Iranians, mashallah, they translate almost every novel. You name it, the Three Musketeers, all of everything that you have ever heard, from Jane Austen to it was all translated. I still have Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility, Aql wa Ihsas. They translate it as Aql wa Ihsas, intellect and feelings. But they are, all of the. I didn't get to reading the great novels such as Dostoevsky's, because they were really over my head at that age. But one thing that it just helped with my reading. Yeah. Because we read over 300 books that year, me and my brother and my cousin. It was kind of like a competition. Okay, read this book, read this book. And and then the war got really bad in Afghanistan, and we had to flee. So we fled from there in the middle of the night, basically, crossing the border. There was no borders. We had to go through the illegal border, basically, just across the country before getting killed, to Iran, and then from there to Pakistan. And from Pakistan, my brother was getting his PhD, his doctorate degree in India on Persian literature at Aligarh University. When the war happened, we told him, don't come, because if you come, they will imprison you, just like they did most of our family members. We lost.
Why was that? Why would they imprison you guys?
So the first thing they did is they wanted to when the Russian came and took over 1978, they had the revolution, the coup in 79. The Russian actually invaded. One of the most powerful families in Afghanistan was our family, the Mojadedis, which they really wanted to dismantle that, because they were the head of the spiritual path of Naqshbandiya. They had a lot of followers, and they were also, my uncle was the minister of Wazir Kharija, or so they were all like minister of Adliya, and so they were in the high post in the government. Also, they had if they said something, people listened because of people trusted them and their knowledge and understanding of the religion. So they didn't want an uprising with them. So the first thing they did, they took our family from all three major cities, Herat, Kandahar, and Kabul, in the same night, including my uncles, and my brother was in prison. But we somehow miraculously we were able to take him out. But most of my cousin and all my uncles, they were all martyred in that time. And they actually took in Kabul, they took the man, the woman, and the children. But the woman and children, after they released them after I think 6 months or so. But the men, they martyred them, all of them, over almost 40 people from our family in one night. So that's why it wasn't safe for adults. I was very young, so I was probably like 13 or so, or 12 or 13. But then we had to leave in 85 because I was old enough to carry a gun, and that's what they say. Okay, can you carry a gun? Go to war. Basically, they'll take you by force as a soldier. So we ended up in America because my brother from India, he didn't come to Afghanistan. He just went to America, and he sent sponsorship, and we ended up in Virginia for a few months, and then to Fremontistan, where all the Afghans are. So that's
Right,
how we
right,
ended up there.
right. Where a lot of other Mujaddidis can be found as well, right?
Yeah. Everybody, you can. Any Afghan is like
Yeah.
in Fremont is the headquarters. Yeah.
So, Paula. So, I mean, so how about your father? I mean, how did he pass?
So my father passed, and actually, this is very interesting. He had a knee problem, and I know you went to
Yeah,
major knee surgery.
right.
They couldn't do it in Afghanistan, so he went to Germany. He was there for about 8-9 months, and they did the surgery and recovery. My uncle used to live. One of our my aunt, my dad's sister, used to live in Germany with her husband.
Mm-hmm.
Her husband was a doctor there in Munich, so he went there and did the surgery. And then while he was there, alhamdulillah, my dad was, Allah blessed him with wealth, and he was a hardworking entrepreneur. And a poet, mashallah, love poetry, and mashallah, incredible man.
Mm-hmm.
But he ordered a Volkswagen from Germany, and he brought it or shipped it to Afghanistan, because there are very few cars in Afghanistan in the 70s. This is late, maybe 70, 74, 75, that era.
Okay.
And so the car came in, and so it wasn't his car. It was very few car, and it was another man was driving, his best friend. They were coming from a village, and then the road didn't have any lights coming from the village. This is the road that connects Herat in Iran, and there was a truck that was parked on the side of the road.
That's fine.
And then so the driver hit the truck, and my father passed away on that. But he was completely fine. Nothing happened to the driver. So that was like really a sudden death, and it kind of brought the family. I was very young. I barely remember the funeral. I was probably maybe 3 or so.
Okay. Mashallah. Yeah. Mashallah. Yeah. No, I appreciate you sharing that information, man. And actually, this is one thing I really enjoy about this about these interviews is I'm actually learning a lot more about people I actually already know. I've actually known for years, and I said, well, why didn't I already know these things, right? Yeah. And and of course, to try to recall traumatic things or things were potentially traumatic in your past, can be very a challenge. But I do appreciate you, sharing those things with me. And ultimately, what I try to do, and I've stated this before, is that I want the audience to sort of understand. The guests, right, and with your story, and to give things context, because no one agrees with everyone and everything, right? And but I do think it helps people to understand people's their ideological sort of leanings. It helps them to understand a lot of things, right? Political leanings, etc., those type of things. And I think that is important for our teacher to be humanized. In that sense, right? So, but yeah, it's a pretty amazing story, I mean. And so you came to America. How old were you when you actually arrived here?
I was around 14 when I got here. Yeah, when we got to America. So,
right. You said from Virginia, then to
so we went to Virginia. The problem with Virginia was the California was very enticing because there was a lot of government help. And a lot of the Afghans, they moved to California because of that the welfare system and just so which really we didn't. Nobody told us anything about the end goal of these things. We're like, okay, they're helping us with rent and they're helping us with this. And my mom, who was really a warrior, having kind of like orphans, like I was a young kid and from Afghanistan. And my brother, who was like 3 years older than me, and my sister, who's 2 years older than him. So we were all like came with her, and she was just, trying to make sure that we are safe and we're good. So then we moved here in California, and a lot of people started coming to the community. We grew up in community. We thought it was Afghanistan, literally. Aunt, uncle, everybody was walking distance. So you could walk to your uncle's house, you can walk to your aunt's house, your cousin's house. You didn't even need to drive. Like literally, that's how close everybody was within like 10 minutes walk. So it was really a nice growing up, very nice, beautifully with the sense of community. We used to play volleyball every Sunday by this church in Fremont Boulevard. The whole family used to come, the uncles, the cousins from 65, 7-year-old to like, 7, 8-year-old. We were all in the playing volleyball and some play soccer, some play basketball. So grew up really, the community was really intact. Although we didn't have anything in terms of everybody was very poor and struggling and trying to figure things out. And it's really hard to figure things out in America, and people,
especially in California, in the Bay Area, So.
Yeah, exactly. America it's a different beast than where you come from. So we didn't know anything about like buying a home. We didn't know anything about, I didn't know what credit score was until like 10 years after I came to America. Literally, I didn't know what credit score was. So, and these are the things that nobody taught us. Like, what are these things? So just learning everything was really a struggle for us.
When did you start learning English? I mean, or did you?
When we came, we didn't know anything. In Pakistan, we took these courses where they were supposed to teach us some English. We went for a few months and we just learned like rat, cat, bat, tat, sat, things that nothing. So when we came here, we were like really didn't know anything. So we were in English. Well, first English class that we attended was an ESL class, and it was kind of like what you might call it. The teacher would say jump, and then we would all jump just because we didn't know, and then she would jump and then just show us, okay, this is what it means to jump. Sit, then we would all sit. I mean, that's where we started. But alhamdulillah, it's just you learn the language. The language has you have a love for it. Everybody loves languages, right? Whether you know it or you don't know it, you have a love because you want to communicate. Some for a woman, some for a, for whatever reason it is, right? For literature, for culture, for music. Most of us, we learned it because of music, because we wanted to understand American music, right? So,
I remember you talked to me about you going to school for history, or you majored in history. Was this in college?
Yeah, that was in college. I had a really interesting. I hated history in high school. I had a really bad history teacher. And then when I went to college, I took this history class, and I had to take it, and I really didn't like it. I went to junior college in Hayward. And then so I majored in music. I was really into music, and so I wanted to be a musician. So I wanted to learn music properly. So I majored in music in junior college, and then when I went to San Francisco State, I had to take a history class. And I walked in, and it was he was Spanish, the teacher, an incredible teacher. Like really, like I'm like, whoa, this is history. And the first thing that he said, I remember, first he walked into the class and he said, who studied anatomy? So am I in the wrong class? And he said, none of us. Okay. He put a picture of a skeleton of a human being on the thing, and he said, this is pure history. That's history. Okay. He said you would never see it. He said the flesh and the clothing are put on by the historian.
Right.
And he said when you read history, you might say, oh, why did they do that? That's the flesh. Somebody put it on it, the bone. So if you really want to know, you have to really go deep and figure out really what happened. And that kind of intrigued me because I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I really want to learn. So, I did history, and then, but we had some good, some bad teachers when you go in the department. I had a very interesting atheist Iranian teacher. That was he was the best and the worst teacher I ever had. The best that he would just be uncensored about anything, like religious stuff. The worst, he had no adab with the religion. That really would bother me. And I would tell him, I said, just say it nicely. Don't say it like that. And he would just, But anyways,
Yeah.
And then I kind of like, when I really didn't want to go into teachings of, when I finished, I always wanted to have a bookstore. Like that
Mhm.
was my
Mhm.
dream since I was
Right.
probably like 15.
Mhm.
And I said, I would love to have a bookstore
Mhm.
just for me to work there. That was the whole purpose of it, so I can read. And that
Right.
was my thing. I can just stay there and I can have books read, and people come and say, "Hey, I read this book."
Mm.
So it's excitement of telling people about what you read. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so I started the bookstore, and I had
Yeah.
job offers here and there, but I just started a bookstore. And
Mashallah. Yeah,
yeah,
I definitely want to come back to talk about the bookstore. But I had a moment of reflection myself when you were talking about the issue of history and how so many people despise, well, how yourself, you really despise history, before when you're in high school. I think that's pretty common among most people, because of not having a good teacher. And actually, similar to you, I had like the good fortune of having a good teacher of American history when I went to college as well back in the 1990s. And he's a very animated teacher, and I remember his very first class, similar to, not exactly the same as yours, but of course, similar to what you had said about the skeleton, was that the particular book that he chose to focus on for American history was voted 99-1 by the U.S. Senate as being not the authentic version of American history, right? So he said this to us, and then he said to us, what does it mean? He said nothing at all. We're going to read it anyway, right? So the idea of like, okay, what actually
exactly.
goes
Yeah.
into what history is involved there, right? I want to kind of sort of work up to the bookstore a part of it. So, well, you can fill in the blanks, but I wanted to talk about like how you came to know Sheikh Hamza, right? So like I remember hearing something about something called the Hayward Study Circle, I think it was called,
Islamic Studies School.
Time study school, right? So, and that was started by you. So often Sheikh Hamza is giving you credit. Sort of, he says, okay, Feraidoon Mojadedi is actually the real founder of Zaytuna College. If we think about it in terms of like its beginnings and how it really started, the actual adventure had started, right? So I mean, so what was that? What was this? And prior to that, how long prior to you starting that did you actually meet Sheikh Hamza?
So what happened in 1992, 1992, 90, yeah, end of 92, I was in JC,
Mhm,
and something happened with my friends. I was the president of Afghan Club,
mhm,
and very popular, you know, this, just the dunya, like completely living the dunya life, having the car that I wanted, the woofers in the trunk,
mhm. Yeah, yeah,
leading down the block,
yeah,
so it was
yeah.
just
You had
the
that day,
lifestyle.
yeah.
Yeah, so, and it's
Mhm,
so, but what happened is I got betrayed by my friends, my
mhm,
best friends, or
mhm,
not one or two, all of them, literally.
mhm,
And that kind of led me to kind of like, this is it, like these are the people I would give my life to, like
mhm,
that's how much
mhm,
I love these guys,
mhm,
and yet they betrayed me,
mhm,
and really suicidal time,
mhm,
you're young and
mhm.
you're popular, and then you're nothing. Literally
Mhm.
the next day you're just like, everybody's walking away from you, they
Right.
don't want to talk to you. And so it actually, I didn't know, what Saadi said, that he said that if a relationship is torturing you,
Mhm,
why are you after this relationship?
mhm,
He said, what? I'm after a relationship? He said, there's a rope in my neck and he's dragging me. Like, I have no, I feel like, مولانا رومی said رشته در گردنم افگنده دوست میکشد هر سو که خاطرهای اوست. He said, God has put a rope around my neck and he's taking me any direction he wants.
mhm,
And really, I felt like those were all detours that
mhm.
Allah set for me.
Right.
And I went home and I was really in a bad situation. I was really, life didn't make sense, because at that age, when you're like 20, 21 years old,
Mhm,
the only thing that matters to you is your friends. Like that's it. Your friends are your life.
Right.
And here are my friends. Everybody betrayed me. I'm like alone. You know, very lonely man. So, anyways, I went to you know, I really was contemplating like literally taking my life. Like this life don't make sense because I wasn't practicing. I was you know, I grew up in a really religious family. My mom was, mashallah, she read Quran daily. She did like easily two, when we were in America, at least 2 to 3 khatams a month, every month. And towards the end of her life, she did like 4 khatams. I remember every week she would do, sit down, I'm doing a khatam, sit down. But you know, we prayed here and there, but we really didn't understand the religion to appreciate it. It was food without salt.
Yeah.
That's what they gave us. That's the religion they gave us, food without salt. And we would take it. It was like, okay, it's like when you're sick in a hospital and they give you that food and you have to eat it because you need that food to survive. And I feel like religion was like that. That's what they give us. And the people who gave us the religion, unfortunately, those mullahs were the people who ate food without salt as well. So it wasn't them. It was just the trickle down from the past 2 generations.
Culture.
And I remember when we were in 7th grade, the teacher, the worst and the comical teacher was our Islamic study teacher. He would come in the room, we would all laugh, we'd throw paper at him, and he would dish shovel, turban, everything. It just didn't look. And then we had a class that we had to learn the life of Lenin and Marx and Hegel during the communists. And the lady that would come, she would come in a mini skirt and beautifully dressed like a supermodel, and everybody was paying attention and memorizing. I mean, I once told Sheikh Hamza, how do I get the life of Lenin out of my head?
Yeah,
I had read that book when I was in 7th grade. He said you can't. They're like glue. They get stuck to you, right? And that's the thing. So for me, religion was, you know, it was kind of like there was no taste to it. You know, there was no taste, and we did it. We prayed here and there. We never, you know, we didn't pray 5 times a day. We prayed. We came out of shower. Okay, you're clean. Go. You pray here. You go to Juma here and there. But there was no taste.
Right.
It was, you know, halawatul iman. That sweetness of faith wasn't there. Right. Rumi said, "Gusham shanid qissay imano mast shud." He said, I literally heard about the story of faith and I became intoxicated from the taste, from the scent of the story of faith, right? And this is why, you know, Iqbal said, he said, the reason people, why they don't enjoy their religion, just practicing the deen, because they don't taste it. And he said, Sajda-e ishq ho to ibadat mein maza aata hai. In a beautiful Urdu line, he said, if you make sajda with ishq, with love, it is then and only then that you can taste the sweetness of your worship.
Right.
And that was lacking. The salt was lacking. There was no sweetness, there was no taste, there was no salt in the food, there was no sweetness in the halwa that we could taste it. So that was a big problem that we had. So we started this place after this betrayal that almost led me to suicide. It led me to God. It led me to Allah, and I realized.
I was kind of pause there. Like, what brought you out? I mean, how did you?
So what I was in a bed one night. It was late night. It was probably like 2 a.m. and I'm rolling, and I'm missing my. I literally was crying and missing my friends, and I'm mentioning them by name like dhikr. You know, oh Ubaidullah, oh so and so, oh so. I'm mentioning the name. I miss these guys, and I'm crying in bed like a teenager. You know, and I'm an adult now, right? And I said, why did you guys betray me? I would never do. What happened? You never told me. So I'm like having a conversation. And there was this voice inside of me that said, everyone will betray you. Everyone will abandon you. Everyone will leave you except Allah. Allah will never leave you.
Just, you know.
And I don't know where that came from. I think it came desperation. Because if I didn't hear that noise, it might have been my last night on this earth.
Because
I was at the edge. You know, I was at the edge. And I was like, trying not to do anything. And this is what Omar Khayyam said. He said, it's midnight, you're drunk, and you're at the edge of the roof. Don't take any step. And I was going to take that step. And it would have been deadly for me. And I realized, and I said, really? Allah? And then that something came into my heart. I don't know what it was. I have no idea. Up to today, I don't know what it was. And I got up, I went to the bathroom, I made wudu, and I prayed. I don't pray at 2 o'clock in the morning. So that was it. And after that, it just, قُلْ آمَنْتُ بِاللَّهِ ثُمَّ اسْتَقِيمُ, say I believe in Allah. And it was, it was difficult times. It was difficult because I was alone. So I tried to find friends. And that's where I met people like Abdurrahman Benavides, who became Muslim in 94. Justin, he became my close friend. And then I met, and Allah brought these people that were so beautiful in my life. And I was like, whoa, what a replacement. Like literally, Allah took Corolla and Camrys away from me and gave me Mercedes Benz and BMWs. Like literally upgraded the relationship. And all of my friends who betrayed me, almost every one of them came to Islam within the next 10 years. They all came. And they all came to Islamic Study School. They started attending. So Islamic Study School, I had a friend, Qari. I mean, he's the first young man that I met who's Afghani and Hafiz of Quran. You're Hafiz of Quran, you're like 20. He said, yeah, I'm Hafiz of Quran. I said, I've never, because Hafiz of Quran in Afghanistan, they're all old. Like I've never met a young Hafiz of Quran. In India, subcontinent, there's a lot of young people, but a lot of us, we just see old people as Hufaz. So I said, let's do it. So he asked me, he said, can you help? I said, sure. So we started this school in Hayward. A little small place, 800 square feet, Islamic Study School. I used to teach like how to pray. I had that book, Ghulam Sarwar, Islam.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah.
That was my book. I thought it was like the biggest alam of the time, having that book. So just teaching people how to make wudu, how to pray, month of Ramadan. Very simple stuff. And he was teaching just the qaida, just how to learn to read the Quran and stuff like that. So after a year, I said, Qari, let's make it bigger. Next door came for rent. And they said, we can't afford the payment for this. This is 600. That's 1,200. I said, let's just go. I'll negotiate with the guy. So we negotiated for $1,000. And he said, come on in. This is 2,000 square feet. We got it. And then we have the same amount of students. Back then, there's no help. Everybody's on welfare. Right. And this is 94, right? So we started, and then my friends, they came say, hey, why don't you ask? So here's what happened. So I met Sheikh Hamza in 93. I was with this another group of Muslims who were very revolutionary and hardcore, and it actually resonated with me because I was young and I wanted to yes, revolution, flip the system. So I was with them, and then so I used to go to this place, this specific mosque every week, and I used to tell my mom I'm going to here for prayer for Jummah, and she wouldn't say anything. Like literally, she said okay. She would used to make du'a for me for protection. So okay, and then after a while, my cousin said, "Have you heard of this guy, Hamza Yusuf?" I said, "No." And so this is beginning. Remember, this is 1993. Sheikh Hamza's videos just popped up in 92, from ICNA and some of the conventions. And back then it was VHS and tapes, right? A few tapes here and there, and it's hard to get. So I said, "Oh, he's in Santa Clara. Let's go see him." I said, "No. I got my peeps here. I'm not going to no Santa Clara." And so, anyways, that was more like an Arab-based culture. This was more like African American and more of the immigrants, or more of the people who were raised here in this country. So anyways, he forced me. He said, "No, you got to go." So we went. I said, "Okay, I'm going to see." He said, "Man, they call him the White Malcolm X." Said, okay, that was the thing they were saying. The White Malcolm X. So we went, and I went there, and it's a funny story though. I went there, and I go to MCA. It's my first time going to MCA. So I go to MCA, and he said, "Okay, my cousin goes to make wudu. I go sit there. I'm like getting like 6-7 row of the prayer. I'm ready for the White Malcolm X." And then that day, instead of the White Malcolm X, we have an Arab guy comes in with a turban and the dara and all that, and he starts with the Arabic. And I'm like, why do these people do this? Don't they know we don't speak a word of Arabic? Don't they know like I need it in English? So I didn't know, like he started the beginning of the khutbah with the Arabic and the I'm like, I just checked out. I'm like, okay, I could have been there with my imam. He does everything in English and blah blah blah. I go on and on and on and on in my head. Khutbah finishes, we pray, and then I leave. And I told my cousin, I said, I hate you for bringing me here. I didn't say. He goes, why? He said, you said there's a white man, the American white convert is giving the khutbah, and this Arab guy. I said, no, that was the shit underneath it. Whoa, come again? What was that? He goes, no, that was him.
Because he was wearing the turban.
He had a turban and so he had the whole Mauritanian look, and Arabic was so I said, oh my God, I gotta come back. Because I didn't understand a word. I didn't listen. I was checked out. But I came the next week and I listened, and I was this checkmate. It was like, okay, this is the message. It's just it was so universal and so beautiful and so just the purity of the message. It had salt on the food, and it had sweetness in the halwa. And that's what attracted me to this. That, okay, I really want to enjoy my religion. I don't want to be depressed being a Muslim. I don't want to be angry being a Muslim. I don't want to be a Muslim who's going to be snapping at everybody. I want to be a Muslim that is beautiful, that people see that and they say, oh, it's a beautiful religion that you have. I want to taste the same thing that you have. And that was really, for me, was they say love at first sight.
Yeah, inshallah. Beautiful story. Beautiful. MashaAllah. Yeah, I mean, and of course, I can always see parallels in my own life and experiences as well like that, because actually it took the second talk that I actually heard Sheikh Hamza give for me to actually start to like him. The first time I heard him speak, I was like, no. The second time he was really on fire. I was like, hold up, wait a minute. Nobody's talking like that, and listen to his Arabic. He's quoting poetry and everything, but the very first time he's much more subdued. The first lecture I had ever heard him, and after that I was just taken by it. I was really like just inspired, and I used to go around and sharing people, hey, you gotta hear this, you gotta watch this, on the VHS. It was actually his talk. It was called the prerequisites of a mujtahid. And of course, in Philly, we needed, we're battling a lot of different ideologies there, so it's a little bit different for me, where it's like I was looking for like something that was a bit more, I guess you'd say, that could handle the academic side of certain arguments were there. It seemed like for you, it's like, okay, well, it was a spiritual. That first lecture that I heard probably would have been appropriate for you. It was the other one.
But for me, there was two other things, because that was one thing that Sheikh said. He said that Allah is created upright, and there's a many reasons, but one of them is that He had put the intellect on the top. And then He put all of the feelings and emotions in the heart right here, and then He put the desires and the shahwat at the bottom. So this is the sequence of things. So you can't really take things by emotion. And then no, you have to really do diligence and put it in the mind and make sure it works. So two things happened that was really incredible. I have a teacher, Dr. Barakatullah, who's a graduate, who he's just incredible scholar, the Fakhr al-Madaris, the traditional system in Afghanistan. His father, Maulana Muhammad al-Ghuri, was one of the greatest scholars of the last century of Afghanistan. As a matter of fact, he had students from Morocco in the 60s and 70s who used to come and study under him because he had the closest chain of narration in Sahih al-Bukhari. They would come and study with him and go back. But anyways, Dr. Barakatullah has been a great blessing in my life. I learned my fiqh, Hanafi fiqh, and a lot of the sciences with him. And so so what I did, two things happened, Sidi, that is kind of like, I told my mom, I said, may Allah have mercy on her. So I said, Mom, I'm going to Santa Clara for prayer today. He said, oh, mashallah, you're not going to the other mosque today? She said, Alhamdulillah, I'm so happy you're going to Santa Clara. Why would she say that? Like, literally, why would she? Has never told me that. So it was a bishara. And then I bought the tape. There's a first VHS I bought of Sheikh Hamza. It was I think it was called Al-Quran, the Living Miracle. This is like 94 or so. We bought those giant TVs.
Right. Yeah.
And so I put it in, and my mom was reading Quran. I remember because she used to read 3 to 4 hours a day. So she would read the Quran, and I just put the tape in the VHS, and I sat and I just turned the volume up a little bit, sat close to TV to listen. And she closed the Quran and goes like, "Who's that?" And I said, "Oh, that's the person I told you I'm going to Juma. Sheikh, and his name is an American convert." And she said something to me that there's certain things you don't share publicly. Things you haven't shared it with many people. But he said something that was like, "Okay, checkmate. This is the right person." Then Sheikh was teaching a class in Santa Clara, so I attended his class. And the first lesson he gave, I took notes. And one of the hadiths that he talked about was al-ainu haqqun, evil eye is true. And he talked about the beautiful metaphor. One of the metaphors that he gave that was like, he said, it's like the evil eye is like the X-ray. When you go get an X-ray, what do? They put that lead on your chest in order to protect you from the rays, right? And he said, for us, that lead is mashallah. Like when we say mashallah, it protects you from evil eye. So anyways, I wrote my lesson, everything the Sheikh taught that day. Then I went to Dr. Barakatullah. I said, "Doctor, what do you say about this?" He goes, "What is it?" I said, "This is a man I want to learn from." And he goes, "Whoa, we taught you this? Whoa." He's narrating from Muwatta of Ibn Malik. He's giving you Ahmed Zarruq. He just like all of the stuff he said. He said, "This is the middle path of Islam. Learn from this man." So the emotions was, it was. I had to.
It was corroborated.
Okay, this is the right thing. And he approved it, and that was it. So it wasn't just that. Okay, I love this man, and I'm going to I went through the steps. So alhamdulillah.
Yeah, mashallah, tabarakallah. Yeah. So eventually you opened up your bookstore. Actually, I was visiting the Bay Area in 2000. I think this is the very first time we ever met. Was in 2000.
Yeah,
they flew me in to the Bay from Morocco it was a Deen intensive happening there. Sheikh Abdul bin Bay was there. Dr. Tawfiq al-Bulti. I'm not sure if Sheikh Muhammad Iqbal was there that year, but I think it was only a week-long program.
Imam Zaid was there. I think Sheikh Hamza was there.
Right. Imam Zaid was there. Sheikh Hamza was there, right? Yeah. And, so they flew me in to translate, attempt to translate for Dr. Tawfiq al-Bulti. It was very difficult, sort of lesson. But at any rate, I visited, someone took me to your bookstore. It was at a different location back then, and so I remember meeting you specifically. You probably don't remember me. I was a lot skinnier back then. So
I have a photo of you from that program.
Oh yeah. You know what? Yeah, you do remember. You did. You shared it with me one time. So you do remember. SubhanAllah. Yeah. So what's the story behind the bookstore? Rumi Bookstore. Was it called Rumi Bookstore back then?
Yeah, it was called Rumi Bookstore from the beginning. I used to get books because when we came to America, one of the things that we were lacking was books. There was no Islamic books. There was some Persian bookstore in LA, and I used to get some of the books from there when I traveled. There was no online, and the phone orders were, you had to fill out a form and mail it in with a check, and it was just very difficult. And a lot of the, so I had a hard time. Every time I got a book that my friend would borrow it, they'd never bring it back, and I'm like, because how much you pay for it? I pay for it. So I'm like, it's not a bad business. So that's how it all started. And then I started ordering like 5 books, 6 books of each copy. I said, okay, here you guys want to read this? So it's kind of like a book club without being a book club. And then so I really didn't want to work for anyone. I worked for corporate, for a little bit, about a year and a half. It wasn't my thing, it was just, I was too, I'm a sanguine. I'm just like, don't have the patience for, just like sitting there, and I can't sit for too long. So then I wanted to do this honestly as a service, because that was and I tell every one of my employees, and I said, hey, you want to work here? This is a service. You can get a job and probably get paid more and whatever, easier job, go somewhere else. But this here is a service. We're doing it for this. This is, and so that's what it was, just to provide. And still, honestly, there's nothing I look forward more to than going to Rumi Bookstore. right? Which I don't go anymore. I go every few
I love
weeks.
to go there too myself.
I
Right?
just like it's just people come in like there's not a day that I go that somebody doesn't come in with a question
Mhm,
that you're like, oh my God, I'm so happy I was there. I gave her the right thing.
mhm, mhm,
Like just guided this person to the right. People come in and they say, hey, I just saw this video on so and so on spirituality. I'm so intrigued. I want to learn about Islamic tasawwuf.
mhm,
And then you give them the right book so they can keep them balanced. If
mhm.
they pick up a book, they just might end up in some a goofy place, right?
Yeah.
But
Right.
and then people come in and say, hey, I need to learn how to pray. Do you have a book? Not only you give them the book, but also you spend like 20, 30 minutes with them. So this is, this page, you do this first, this is how you do it. And then they're really appreciative. And they say, oh, can I get your contact? Can I call you if I have a question? Sure, here you go. Like, we had conversion at the store, many conversion people came. They came, they bought, so they went back, they came back and they talked and they converted, to Islam. As a matter of fact, we had a guy whose son is a boxer. He's like, he's going to be, inshallah, a champion. And he became Muslim. He was in prison. He came out and he's a
Mhm,
trainer. He's like, I love Islam. Like I gave him like being Muslim, and he read it as a few books on Islam. He's like, I'm ready, brother. I'm ready. And then his son becomes Muslim. He's like 20 years old, 19 years old.
mhm,
But anyways, like those are the things that I really enjoy. And then
mhm,
giving people, because when I go to a bookstore, I really, if I don't know the subject, I say, hey, I want a book. I want a book on learning uh, mathematics or
mhm,
calculus. Give
mhm,
me a book. If they give me the wrong book, I will hate that subject.
mhm,
But they give me the right book, I will love it. So just
mhm.
giving people the right material and guiding them to the right,
Right.
and then also telling them that here, listen to this, listen to that. There's videos on this, there's commentaries, there's chat. So
Mhm.
it's really, and not only the books but also other stuff. People,
Yeah,
would
Allah
like.
bless you. Allah
Yeah.
bless you. Mashallah.
So
Mashallah. Yeah. So I mean, so this is the part of the interview where I asked you, is there any particular personality, either past or contemporary, that you believe people need to know more about? And if you have anything to sort of say about that particular person.
past many, present many,
Mm,
and my. When you age, as you age, you realize things that man, I wish. I wish I knew that 20 years ago or 30
mm,
years ago or 15 years ago.
mm,
And a lot of regret. Alhamdulillah, we grew up around some of the great scholars of our time and we learned not to make those mistakes. Again, I would like to go back to my original point of history where a lot of our scholars, that whether they're contemporary or whether in the past,
mm,
the bones of the scholars, if you really want to know, um, it's difficult. It takes time, and the clothing is different clothing and different flesh that everybody puts in.
mhm,
And I'm sorry, I don't buy the flesh that some of the Westerners put on Maulana Rumi. I
mm,
think it's fake flesh. I think it's fake clothing, right? But for them, it's real. They believe in that. They believe in those things that some of those erotic things that they have in
yeah.
their mind about these amazing saints of Islam. I don't believe it.
Mhm,
One American, I had a talk with this non-Muslim. One American asked me, he said, "So why was Rumi alone in a room with chumps, and they spent like almost 14 months all the time in a room all alone? What were they doing if they were not doing what we
mhm.
are saying they were doing?"
Alhamdulillah.
And so I said, well, you're seeing things through your prism, through your
Mhm,
perspective.
mhm, mhm,
If you put me with my sheikh
mhm,
in a room for 14 months, you know, it's just going to be beauty in ihsan, in knowledge, in learning, in adab, in khidmah, in service.
mhm,
That's what's going to happen in there.
mhm, mhm,
What do you think happened? This is one of the things that people don't understand about the khilwa of
mhm,
the scholars in
mhm,
the past. In the story of Layla Majnun,
mhm,
there's a point where Qais becomes Majnun, right? He loses his sanity. His name is Qais of Bani Amir, but he becomes Majnun, which means a madman. And so the father of Layla says, "Oh my God, make sure that wherever we go, we don't encounter Majnun and his family, because they're just going to drive us. It's just going to be a bad thing for us, right? Because our name and our honor." So they go to a wedding, and then so when they walk into the wedding, they see the people of Bani Amir, so Layla's father. They say, "Oh my God, they must be here. There's a lot of Bani Amirs here. Let's hide Layla. Let's hide Layla somewhere." So they look around and they see a well, a water well, in the corner of the house. So let's put her inside the well, and we'll take her out when we leave. So they go and they put Layla in the well, and then they say, okay, they go inside, and then they enjoying the gathering. And then after that, Majnun and his parents walk in, and they see Layla's parents inside. Go, "Oh my God. If Majnun sees Layla and their parents are there, he's going to go crazy." And he's going to, so what do? They look around and say, "There's a well there. Let's put Majnun in the well, and we'll pick him up when we finish the party." So they go, and then they drop him off inside of the well, and they go in, and they're enjoying the party. Now, here's a question. What do you think happened in the well with Layla and Majnun in there, all alone by themselves? You know what happened? Nothing happened, because love was the chaperone.
Yes.
And that is pure love. That is pure love. It's always the chaperone. It's always, that's the purity of love. It's different from lust. So so that's one understanding of the people. So the people are present. I mean, we have been blessed. Honestly, we've been blessed to meet people like Sheikh Abdullah bin Bayya. You know, presence is real. Presence is real. And a lot of the kings, they try to create presence in Haiba by having the guards and having the protocol. These people of Allah, they have a presence that really affects your heart, your state of being, just being with them. And people like Sheikh Muhammad Yaqubi, Hafizullah, I mean, just an incredible human being, scholar, a erudite, a man of adab, just a, you know, beautiful, like, I mean, just simply a beautiful man. You know, I sometimes think, one time I left a message for him. I said, "Sheikh, I think about you, and tears flow from my eyes just thinking about you." That's how beautiful this man is. You know, Imam Zayd, I mean, subhanAllah, what akhlaq, prophetic character in action. You can see it, just incredible human being that we were honored. I mean, what do I say about Sheikh Hamza? Wallahi, it's not the knowledge, it's not the speeches, it's not the talks at these conventions, it's not the books, it's not the translation, it's post all of that really floored me. It's after the fact that you see a man who truly lives the religion.
Yes.
And the love of Allah and His Messenger, it's just, you know, you could have like the best day of your life. It's kind of like you have your night was Laylatul Qadr, and your day was the day of Arafah, and you're the top of your world. And then you sit with Sheikh Hamza, and you feel insignificant in terms of your love for Allah and your love for the Prophet, and love for the deen. And just this deen is just at such a high place that mediocrity in just good enough is not good enough. It's for this deen, everything has to be, and you know this, at the level of ihsan, highest level of excellence, because the love that he has for Allah and His Messenger.
Right. Exactly.
And because of the love he has for this deen. And people like that, they're you know, if you see people like that, subhanAllah, it's just it's once in generations. So
I agree.
We've met many of the great scholars of our time, Habib Ali, mashallah, beautiful man of akhlaq and character. So we're actually blessed to meet and to sit with a lot of these scholars and to know them. But unfortunately, many people, they just see a video and they
Mhm.
think that's the
Yeah.
person,
Right.
and it's so sad,
Yeah.
you
But
know.
actually, if you brought me back to 2006 when all the controversy around RIS was
Yeah,
going on, and I wrote a piece entitled "From Frames to the Familiar," and
yeah,
that was fundamentally the point I was trying to make. Is that okay? Yeah, it's one thing to know someone only as a public personality, but once you're familiar with an individual, you know something different, a whole lot that's
yeah,
different, right?
yeah,
And to be totally honest, one of the primary reasons I decided to start this podcast is because I want to acquaint people, or at least direct people to individuals who I consider to be true teachers, and or people who embody the prophetic ethos, and in other words, and I've said this in perhaps one other interview, is that I personally am convinced that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never wanted us to break the connection with the living teacher, right? That he didn't want us to, at least it's my belief, to just simply rely upon books, right? And um, you know, um, Imam Shatibi, rahimahullah, he talks about Ibn Hazm al-Zahiri and how abrasive he was with the ulama, and he says that the fundamental reason why he was so abrasive was because he learned most of what he learned from books, right? That he did not spend enough time in the presence of the ulama, right? With actual living teachers, right? To learn proper adab. Because you started this particular interview, you talked about adab and how, there's an etiquette to everything that you were taught when you were young, and then we ended here. We come to this point where we talk about, okay, these individuals, we know them, we interact with them, we actually, to an extent, we can say this, that we actually know their hearts to an extent, right? Because we've been interacting with them for such a long time. And of course, doesn't mean that people are masoom, people are not infallible, right? People make mistakes, but we have good reason to give people the benefit of the doubt, right? And I do think that in itself is something that's being lost among Muslims, especially in the social media realm, right? So again, perhaps there are some people take offense to that. Me even saying that, okay, this is about trying to direct people to teachers who I feel embody the prophetic ethos. People say, oh, they're not this person, not him, and not her, right? But at the same time, at least my intention is that, right? And I do think it is something important to consider for everyone. Right? So, where can people follow your work?
yeah. Um, I'm not a social media person. Just not on it a lot. Just because of time, unfortunately, like work and family and kids, you don't get a lot of time to be active on social media. I have social media account on Instagram and Facebook, but I don't really Twitter. But I'm not active, unfortunately, or fortunately, for that matter. Um,
But you have Rumi Bookstore.
yeah, yeah, I have it, and then, I a lot of the stuff that I
Mhm.
teach, that I taught, like courses.
Mhm.
My courses are all donated to Dean Stream.
Okay.
Is a website. It's a nonprofit organization
Right.
that
Mhm.
has courses, classes, not lectures, but rather classes for more serious students who
Mhm.
want to learn. There's classes on. I did a few courses. I think there's about six of my courses available there on Maulana Rumi.
Mhm.
I did Saadi, Khaja Abdullah Ansari, different Persian poets and scholars.
Mhm.
And so those are available there. Working on some projects right now, inshallah. So see what happens. But also in terms of the you mentioned something about the scholars of the past. Um, Look, for us, you know, uh, it's a living tradition of the dead. You
Mhm.
know, we follow a living tradition of the dead.
Right.
And the work of Maulana Rumi,
Mhm.
it's not gonna expire,
Right.
because
Mhm.
it's done. It's, love doesn't expire. It's
Mhm.
just written with love. And they didn't write their books to become New York Times bestseller, but Allah
Right.
made a New York Times bestseller
Mhm.
because of
Mhm.
what he wrote about. He wrote
Mhm.
about Allah and His Messenger.
Mhm.
So, to get to know some of these greats, such as Maulana Rumi and Saadi Shirazi. I feel like Saadi Shirazi is probably is his text, the Gulistan. If people just study that, the government and the public, because the first chapter is advice to the king, the second chapter is advice to the citizen and the darwish. So it's kind of like, hey, you gotta live together. So
Yes.
how to be a ruler that is really ethical and incredible, and how to be a citizen of a nation,
Right.
as a person who has no authority. So they're really amazing teachings in these texts that we can benefit from the personalities and from the text. I'm teaching a course on 10 of the great Persian poets, it's called from Rumi to Iqbal. So we just go through all of that. So, and then they all teach the same thing. There's exactly the same thing, but they just come from a different perspective. You feel like it's different, but it's not. At the end, it's connection with Allah and His Messenger, and be a man of akhlaq and uprightness, and beauty and ihsan, and don't preach it before you practice it.
That's right. That's right. Barakallahu fiqh. Yeah, definitely. I mean, of course, Maulana Rumi is a universally accepted poet. If anything, I guess we could sort of say, like, as Muhammad Ali, rahimahullah, at one time was the most recognizable face on the planet. Jalaluddin Rumi, of course, is the most recognized and most celebrated poet. Perhaps it may turn out to be for all human history. So definitely a whole lot more that everyone, including myself, needs to know about him and his work. And of course, he's also identified as being, he also was a jurist, and he was a theologian as well. We often hear people talk about that. He was Hanafi, Maturidi as well, right? So
yeah.
Right, yeah. So because he's always associated just with the
and that's the thing that I feel like I always tell people. I said, what people like Coleman Bark, God bless him and illuminate his heart, inshallah. What he has done is, like Nicholson and Coleman Barks and them, they actually did what we couldn't have done it with $1 trillion, literally. And you put $1 trillion to market a person from born in Afghanistan, right? Maulana Rumi. Right. His name is Muhammad Jalaluddin, right?
Yeah.
Hanafi in Madhab, Maturidi in Aqidah, right?
Right.
Prayed 5 times a day, practicing Muslim, right? Fasted in Ramadan, wore a turban, and yet he's New York Times bestseller. Right. Poetry book in the history of this country, like outselling Shakespeare, Emily Dickinson, Robert Frost, all of these. So they did their job. They did an incredible job of just, just showing the people who this man is. So now the entire world is in love with Rumi, right? Oprah Winfrey said to Imam Muhammad Majid, Muhammad Majid told me, so I have one chain of narration for
Right.
Yeah. So Imam Majid narrated from Oprah Winfrey, and I narrated from Imam Majid, who told me that she said that she has the a book of Maulana Rumi by her nightstand. And every night before she goes to sleep, she has to read a few pages. And she said, "This is my Bible." Like this is like, these are people who are like intellectuals of America, right? And everybody's reading Maulana Rumi. They love. So all they have to do is, it's our job now to tell them the next layer of Rumi's meaning, which he was a Muslim, and this is what he taught, right? And I think that this is a really incredible way of starting a conversation with a non-Muslim. That's always they say, "Oh, Rumi." Say, "Oh, yeah, Rumi, yeah, and then they have a few quotes, and then we talk, and the next thing you know, it goes into a deep conversation about the religion."
Yeah, well, alhamdulillah, barakallahu fiqh. Really do appreciate you taking the time to spend with me today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and increase you in every way. And until next time, hopefully this won't be the only time we have this conversation. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be with you and grant you tawfiq in all that you do. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah khair, and thank you, Sidi. May Allah bless you and give tawfiq and all the work that you do, inshallah, as well.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and support. Check the links in the description below to keep up with our work. Thank you.